charming thief and a band of unlikely adventurers embark on an epic quest to retrieve a lost relic. But things go dangerously awry when they run afoul of the wrong people. This is Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves.
Good morrow. How fare you, brother?
I'm doing quite well, brother. How about yourself?
Yes. Shit, I don't even know any other like medieval-esque terms. What? Shit.
I had like a whole bit I was gonna do in my head, and then you not knowing where to go with it next just like fucked me.
My dice roll was not high.
Yeah, intelligence check.
Intelligence check was 0.
It's impossible to roll that, I believe, but you managed it.
Oh shit. Okay, this is gonna go well. Hear ye. We are talking about Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. We went from video games to tabletop games. Let's go. We're covering everything here.
We're going backwards in time. So real quick before we go into the cast, I will just say, like, just to lightly talk about this movie before we dive into it.
Okay.
I remember like hearing about this movie being made, not really like thinking anything of it, wasn't planning on watching it. And then I saw the trailer for it like on a YouTube ad, and it was just like it was literally like a quick 10-second like trailer for the movie where it was just like the scene of them in the graveyard, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
Doing like the interrogation scene. It fucking like it was the first time like in like a really long time where a commercial just like fucking like made me like laugh out loud. And like I was just like, yo, I need to watch this movie. This looks actually good. This movie, I feel like, kind of really flew under the radar for a lot of people, at least initially, like unless you were like really into like the D&D circles. I don't remember a lot of people like exactly talking about this movie, but I think gradually as it started getting closer to release, it really started gaining a lot of hype, and people were genuinely surprised with how like much love and care was put into it.
So when I heard they were making this movie, I thought it was going to be like a more serious like adventure movie.
Like the World of Warcraft movie or something shit?
Like that, yeah. So then when I saw that it was like a comedy, I was like, wait, what? Like this is kind of throwing me off. I didn't really want to see it that bad. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons. Unfortunately, it seems really fun, but it's never been something I've been able to do. Hit me up, Dungeon Masters. If you're trying to get a campaign started, let's go. I'm down to try it.
Brandis and I have actually been trying to get one going.
Dude.
And we actually have a friend, Kevin. You met Kevin, the guy that married me and my wife. He does do campaigns as the DM.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah, no, we're trying to get something going with him. So maybe we could do like a virtual one.
That would be sick. But yeah, wasn't like super hyped for this movie. Wasn't something I was going to watch in theaters, but the reviews came out and people started like really praising this movie and saying it was like super good, super funny. So that kind of intrigued me. But honestly forgot about it until I was perusing Amazon Prime the other day and I was like, oh shit, this movie's on here. So decided to check it out. And now we are here doing a podcast about it.
All right. So who's in it?
I don't know. I forgot what his name is and his character's name is. Is it Edgin? Is it Edgin? Edgin?
Oh.
Edgin? What the fuck is his character's name?
Chris Pine's character?
Yeah.
I have fucking no clue. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm just gonna say Edgin because that's
dude. I'm fucking edging right now.
Anyways, Edgin is played by the Chris Pine of Star Trek, Wonder Woman, and Don't Worry, Darling. Chris Pine killed it.
Is it Edgin?
Edgin? I'm not sure.
I don't remember.
I don't really know how to say
how to pronounce it. Yeah.
For the podcast's sake, I'm either going to call him just Chris Pine or Edgin. Edgin. We'll go with Edgin. That sounds more Dungeons and Dragon-y.
Yeah, Edgin. I feel like I would have noticed Edgin.
I mean, it's just missing a letter to become edging, but whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, Chris Pine, hilarious, charming as usual. Just charismatic as fuck. His hair really bothered me in this movie.
I mean,
it
as much as like the Don't Worry Darling premiere.
Like it just didn't look like medieval, you know? He kind of just looked like a dude from our time dressing up as like a medieval
I
like
feel like that's
character.
like every like movie that takes place in like medieval times, though, right? Like every time I watch like a movie that takes place in like those kinds of times before like modern day plumbing, it's like, yo, these people are way too hot to look like this, like to be in this times like this
No, I
time.
disagree. It's
So,
his haircut,
like,
bro. The way his hair was just didn't seem very medieval.
well,
to
I'm
me.
just talking about in general, dude. Like in general, whenever there's movies that take place in any situation where there's like knights and there's no modern day plumbing, it's just like everyone looks so clean. Like they have like unrealistic hairstyles, like what you're saying, or just like
It's not
people
even
look
that
hot.
his was unrealistic. It just looked modern. It looked like from this time. That was my issue. It was taking me out of the immersion a little bit.
Mhm.
Granted, like there's other like trendy haircuts, but his in particular, I don't know why. It just threw me off. Holga, played by Michelle Rodriguez of the Fast and Furious franchise and
Family.
Avatar. She was really
Last
good in this
Airbender?
too. Yes, the blue one. The blue airbender. The airbender with hair. She does what she does well. And
I feel like Chris Pine was just Chris Pine in this too.
yeah,
Like,
it's true. No one, I guess
So-
no one really did anything that was like too far from their actual personalities.
well, that actually to me ties in to like what the movie is, though, just because like, yes, they're playing characters, but like the whole point of like Dungeons and Dragons and playing like you're portraying your quirks through this character, you know, and like
Yeah,
it does,
I mean,
it does feels like a bunch of people playing like LARPing essentially, you know.
I see what you're
And I think
saying.
that works to this movie's advantage, in my opinion.
It does, but if you're unaware, which maybe most people are, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's more of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to those in the know. But for the general population, like for me, going into this movie, I was just going into it as I know nothing about Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not basing anything in this movie off Dungeons and Dragons. I am just going to watch this movie and whatever it gives me, it gives me. But of course, if you're delving into like what it's actually doing and referring to in relation to the game, then yeah, you could definitely be like, oh yeah, this is so meta. But for the general public, I think it's just that might be lost. Either way, they do what they do. They do it well. That's not a knock on them. Still really good in this movie. Simon, played by Justice Smith of Detective Pikachu fame and the worst Jurassic Park movies. I can
what
say,
a resume.
I could say that for him.
Absolutely shining.
I could say that for him because he wasn't in the first Jurassic World movie, which was the best one. He was in the last two stinkers. So
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah,
Yes, I
it's
agree.
truly
the
unfortunate.
First Jurassic World is probably the best out of the three.
yeah, but he was really good in this. Really funny. He played his character really well. Maybe he actually seemed the most separated from his personality. I mean, I don't know him too well, but
I mean, that's pretty much his character. Like he's typically like the comic relief type of character. That's what he was in the Jurassic World movies. That's what he is kind of
That's
like.
true.
He's the main character, but that's kind of, you know, Detective Pikachu-esque as well. You know, like he's kind of typecast at this point, which is unfortunate because I do think he has some range to his acting. But other than Doric, like I really feel like everybody's just kind of playing themselves. Doric's the only one where I'm not really too familiar with her outside of like it and this movie. Like I'm not really sure like what playing her is. So to me, she actually feels like a character, you know?
yeah. So you already mentioned Doric, Sophia Lillis, It franchise, more recently Asteroid City, and of course Forge, played by none other than Hugh Grant.
Amazing casting. Dude.
Also
Oh
doing
my
what he
God.
does, just being just a bastard.
You know, what else is Hugh Grant in? Like the
Dude,
only
he's in
movie I could
so
think of.
much.
The only movie I could think of off the top of my head is like Mickey Blue Eyes.
Yeah, Mickey Blue Eyes, Love Actually. He's in the new Wonka movie. He's in a couple of my favorites, The Gentleman and A Man from U.N.C.L.E. Really good like action flicks.
I haven't seen any of those.
And then of course just like other rom-coms. I think Bridget Jones's Diary. Dude, just Hugh Grant, man. He's been around, bro. He's done some shit. Paddington Bear.
Something that we may or may not do in the future. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's on the
yeah.
list for sure.
But yeah, man, fucking Hugh Grant, dude. Perfect casting. Just again, bastard.
What a bastard.
What a bastard. But yeah, that is the cast. Pretty damn solid cast, if you ask me.
So should we just get right into it then? Like, what are our thoughts about this?
Let's get into it.
This movie's a lot of fun. Like, this movie just exudes like I don't know if necessarily you would call this like an ensemble cast movie, but like it does the Marvel-esque group dynamic thing very well, but it works better in this movie than in a lot of the other movies that try to do the Marvel thing. But like, because this movie is a Dungeons and Dragons movie, and even though there's people that do not play Dungeons and Dragons, everybody knows what Dungeons and Dragons is. It had that much of an impact during its golden time or whatever, and its resurgence in more recent years, that like people know what it is, at least. Like they understand when you say Dungeons and Dragons, you're referring to
Nerds,
tabletop,
losers,
nerds, losers, you know,
Virgins.
mom's basement type shit. You know what I'm saying? V card intact, right? Like laminated,
intact
damn near,
and
right?
secure.
V card laminated, intact, hasn't even been touched, accumulating dust,
Pristine
even,
condition.
pristine, yeah. But people know, right? So like you can understand that like these characters are kind of like a foil, and even though it might not be obvious, they're kind of like a foil of what it's like to be in a table with your friends and then just like doing things as they kind of happen or making decisions as they happen. And like I just really like enjoyed the characters and how they played off of each other. I really think the actors all did a good job, and like how the movie goes about setting things up and having them interact with each other, like it really does feel kind of reminiscent of that, even though we're supposed to believe it's just a world and it has nothing to do with the actual game, you know. Usually when we talk about movies, the biggest thing that we praise typically ends up being like the cinematography, the sound design. This is one of the movies where I really have to praise like the writing. I'm not going to sit here and say it's perfect. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's the best written movie I've ever seen, but like I think this movie accomplishes everything it sets out to and more. This movie to me is the definition of exceeding what people expected from it. I enjoy this movie so much and had so much fun watching it.
Yeah, this movie was a lot more fun than I expected it to be. It seemed like almost every fucking scene there was something to like laugh at. Like it was just chock full of jokes, but they weren't like stupid jokes either. They weren't just like really low hanging fruit jokes. They were like genuinely like witty sometimes, and just like the action scenes were incredible in this movie. That's like one of the standouts for me for sure. It's just the fight choreography was like super dope. Like it felt so like visceral and fast and just crazy. It felt like an action RPG, you know what I mean? Where you're just button mashing and it's just like going from like enemy to enemy, like auto like targeting and shit. And just to praise the writing some more, like it really felt like the characters when they interacted with each other, it felt like when you're playing an RPG and you're getting those like party like bonding dialogue like throughout like playing the game, like you're just like going to it like when you're traveling and you just have those conversations. That's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah.
So they did that really well. Like I said, I kind of watched it from a scope of I don't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons, so I'm just gonna watch the movie as it's presented to me, and I don't think anything is lost if you don't understand Dungeons and Dragons. From what I've read, the nods and the lore and stuff they took from Dungeons and Dragons was super well done. So in that aspect, I really wish I did know more about Dungeons and Dragons, but I don't think it was at all necessary to enjoy this movie. Like this movie is just so well done. It's fun. Its pacing is really good. And it's just it like it sucks you into what's happening. Like I don't think the story is anything like super deep, but it doesn't need to be.
This movie is not deep. This movie doesn't try to do anything where like even like the emotional points in the movie, it's nothing that like you're gonna shed a tear over. You're not gonna cry. Like, I mean, there is like one part of the movie that I would say is probably like relatively sad.
Yeah.
But like even that, like you know everything's gonna be fine in the end. This is like a movie that to me is very comfortable.
Yeah.
Like you kind of know going into it that it's all going to be okay. And that's fine. Like I don't think it's trying to reinvent the wheel, you know?
Not at all.
Like I really genuinely think this movie just went in with the intention of one, doing the subject matter justice, and then two, creating something fun and engaging for people that are familiar with the with Dungeons and Dragons and people who aren't familiar with Dungeons and Dragons. And it's able to walk the line very well between fan service and in service of the movie. Some of my favorite nods to Dungeons and Dragons. And again, I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons player. I've never played like an actual campaign, but I've watched a lot of Dungeons and Dragon campaigns through like YouTube channels that I enjoy. One of the things I've heard people talk about in their analysis of the movie, and it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie, is the very beginning.
Okay.
Where
the backstory.
Egan is recounting like his backstory.
Yeah.
So this is a really good exposition dump. And normally this type of thing shouldn't work. Show the audience, don't just tell the audience. But because it's his backstory, which is a very common thing that you do at the very beginning of your campaign, is you tell who your character is and you say their backstory, right? So, okay, it makes sense within the context of the movie. All of it ends up being just a big ploy to stall for time until Jonathan comes in, which fucking hilarious, by the way. The name Jonathan alone.
Shout out.
It's like a big fucking crow thing.
Shout out to Jarnica. That's exactly what I thought of when I heard Jonathan.
Yeah. That's Matt's nickname for my wife. For those that don't know.
Yeah.
Her name's Janice.
Every time he was saying that name, and he said it like fucking 4 or 5 times in that scene alone, I was dying.
Dude, fucking hysterical. And then like you think like, okay, they're waiting for Jonathan because has some sort of relationship with Edgin or whatever, and you think it's gonna end up playing like a part, and he's gonna vote to release them. He has some sort of sway.
Yeah.
But no, it's just because he's a bird and they use him to fly out the window. Like this movie does, like it plays with your expectations.
That
so
shit was
well.
so funny. I dude, fucking, and then when they fucking crash and he's just fucking dead. They just fucking walk off and you just see his fucking lifeless body. Fucking hilarious.
When they grab him, when they first grab Jonathan, there's like the lady that goes, "Oh no, Jonathan!" I heard a YouTube video I was watching that was kind of like breaking it down for the less like Dungeons and Dragons initiated. Was basically saying like, you know, this is kind of like a playful like reference to like how a lot of the times, because, you know, the DM is basically setting up these scenarios and then tossing it to the players and asking them what to do. A lot of times players would just do the most random shit, or they'll say like, let me try this. Like, you know, it's always like not what you would expect, you know, because people's creativity is always going to be better than what you plan for, you know? I love that, you know, and I'm sure, I really am positive that is what the intention of the movie filmmakers is, you know, to do something that you feel like you know where it's going to go. You feel like you know and understand like what's going to happen. And then it just completely goes a different direction in like an instant, you know?
I think another example of that is the bridge scene when they're trying to get the helmet.
Yeah.
Where
you know,
the paladin is like fucking explaining this complicated like series of things they have to do, and then fucking Simon fucks it up because he steps on the bridge and it's not the right spot and just completely destroys it.
Yeah. And like that's like a reference to like how Dungeons Masters will always like come up with the most convoluted thing that you have to do, you know? Like that's a good one too. That I really enjoyed that bit. Another joke that I really enjoyed was the intelligence check that happens in the form of these like brain monsters that appear when they go into a dungeon. The paladin character is basically explaining like, oh, like they sense like a certain level of intelligence, whatever, literally an intelligence check.
Yeah.
And it just like passes right by them. And then Chris Pine's character is like, well, that's a little insulting.
Those fucking little brain creatures reminded me of these things in the show Doom Patrol, which is a show on Max, which is it's a DC show.
R.I.P.
And there's characters in there that look very similar to the brains, except their asses, like straight up butts. So that's immediately what I thought of when I saw those things. Like, oh my god, those look so similar to just the fucking asses in that show. It was hilarious.
And I think those are actual monsters from Dungeons and Dragons as well. Like
I would assume most of like the creatures are actually in the game. I know the fucking chunky dragon is.
Is it?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about.
Yeah,
Is
the
it?
chunky dragon is. Yeah. I think I looked it up.
Big Chungus.
Big Chungus. The Chungus among us.
It's just really fun way to like play with the material. It understood the assignment.
So
you know?
if you happen to watch this movie without knowing a lot about Dungeons and Dragons, I suggest like going on YouTube and like watching a video that breaks down how this movie references everything in the game, because you'll get like a whole nother appreciation for this movie.
Yeah. Like you said though, right? Like it's not necessary to enjoy the movie.
It's definitely not. Yeah.
You know, it's definitely not. Like these are all things that like if you know, and you're like, oh, that's fucking great, you know. But if you don't, the movie does such a good job of like explaining things to you in a way that isn't talking down to you. You know, it lightly introduces the world, it lightly introduces elements of the world and things within the world, and then it just plays around with it. A good example of this is what's his name?
About
Zank. Zank, yeah, played by Roger Jean Page. His character is supposed to represent like the typical like NPC, like, and there's a little bit more to it than that, but like essentially he is like an NPC.
I think he also represented like the dungeon master, because he was the one who knew exactly where everything was, who knew how to navigate the complex bridge or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is like
in Dungeons and Dragons, the dungeon master typically does do the role of NPCs that the group comes across. So yeah, you're right. If you know what type of character he is, and if you know why he's there, then you appreciate it, because you know it's like, oh yes, like Dungeons and Dragons, like this type of character. But if you don't, like, his character is still fucking hilarious.
Yeah, he's fucking great.
So like one of my favorite scenes is like when Simon, I think, is like trying to be sarcastic or something, and then he's like, I've always felt that sarcasm is like a blade that cuts like both, or so he says something along the lines of like just like super literal and like so like dry. It's just great, dude. So it works so well.
I don't know if I should mention it now, but he's in one of my favorite scenes, one of the scenes that I find the most funny. Should I go into that later, or should I just say it now?
Go for it.
Okay, so one of the funniest scenes in the movie to me is when they're on when they get the helmet and they're on the beach, right? And he's like, "Oh, whatever, I must go now," or whatever, and he just starts walking straight, like just straight, right? I guess the actor didn't hear cut as he was walking away, so the shot of him just like walking straight towards the rock and then Chris Pine's like dialogue over it was improvised.
Yeah, dude, that's so good.
But that's not even my favorite part of that scene. My favorite part of that scene is when it moves on from him like walking away and other shit's happening. They're moving forward with the story. You can still see him in the background. He's still walking straight. And it was killing me, dude. I was dying, man. I was dying. That scene was so funny.
Yeah, dude. Oh my god, yeah, that is so great. And like, again, NPC behavior, right? If you play RPG video games, you get it. Video game characters that you don't control are just gonna walk straight. Doesn't matter what's in their path, they're just gonna fucking go. Stupid AI, right?
That shit was funny.
Oh, dude, it's so fucking great, dude.
Real quick, I want to shout out the villain played by Daisy Head, Sophina, the main like red wizard in this movie. She was actually kind of freaky, dude. Like, oh yeah, dude. She was like, she had some fucking power, man. Like, especially once you start getting familiar with how like magic skill levels are and like what spells you can cast and can't cast, and the fact that she's like a fucking boss, dude. Yeah, she was like a fucking legitimate threat, and she was fucking creepy too. Like the fucking like one, I guess, sort of jump scare is when Doric is like the fly and she's like listening in, and then she goes like, oh, there's like a shapeshifter or whatever, and then she does that fucking scream thing and like points her out. I was like, oh shit. Yeah. That was kind of creepy.
Dude, that fucking scene, by the way, that whole sequence is fucking phenomenal, dude. It's a one-shot scene where Doric gets discovered in the castle spying as like a fly. And then it basically follows her throughout the castle trying to escape, shape-shifting into different things. And it's all done in one shot, as a one shot. Dude. And it's fucking so good, dude.
Has you on the edge of your seat, man. It was pretty. Oh, dude. Like, I was anxious during that whole thing.
Like, even though you know that everything's going to be okay, because this is just one of those movies where, like, like the good guys have to win. Like, it does build the tension super well. There's another scene And again, you know the good guys are going to come out victorious in the end. You know, this is just not one of those movies where tragedy is the currency here, right?
Yeah.
Like the fucking heist scene where they
Oh, that's such a good
basically,
one. Yeah.
you know, the scene where they're trying to basically get a painting that has a portal into the castle, and they have to be able to get it onto a cart without the soldiers who are guarding the cart noticing. And this whole scene is just fucking great, dude. The like the writing behind it, the planning of it, the way it works and how they get it to work, it's just so good. It's just so well done.
Even when they run into like a few hiccups, the way they like navigate around it was also pretty well done. But I also like that scene because prior to that, they used that staff, the hither, whatever it's called. Hither, thither.
I don't remember what it's called.
I don't know. But that staff. So when they introduce it, they use it to get out of, to escape the chonky dragon, right? I feel like typically movies would then abandon that device. Like, oh, we used it. We you know, it served its purpose. No, they use it again in another really clever way.
Oh, yeah, dude. You know what they say? Chekhov's hither, tither, you know?
Hither, tither. Walking stick.
I don't even know if that's what it's fucking called.
Tether, Heather. I don't know, man. The fucking stick. The portal gun.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I wasn't sure if that, like, item was, like, a thing from Dungeons and Dragons.
Think they made
or if it's
it
literally just a reference to Portal.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because it literally is portal gun, you know, just in staff form.
I will say this about the villain, though. Are you familiar with who Kate McKinnon is?
No.
Okay, well, she's from SNL. She was like one of the stronger cast members in like the newer seasons. She's in she was in the Ghostbusters movie, the all-female one that like flopped.
Ooh.
Yeah. But anyways, Ali pointed out as we were watching the movie that the villain kind of looks like her. And if you know her and some of her characters that she played on SNL, it like just completely like ruined her scariness for me now. Because it just looks like Kate McKinnon in like crazy makeup playing one of her weird characters.
I do agree with you though that she was very terrifying, and the way they use her is very good actually for someone that doesn't really speak,
doesn't have a lot of backstory,
doesn't have a lot of backstory.
Motivations aren't the strongest. You know what I mean?
The motivations are evil for the sake of evil, which is never a good character trait. Yeah. But I mean, for some reason, it kind of works here, you know. But let's talk about the real villain. You know, let's talk about the actual villain of this movie.
Bastard.
That bastard.
That bastard Hugh Grant.
That fucking cunt.
That fucking twat, mate.
Dude, every fucking time Hugh Grant is on screen,
he's a twat.
He's a twat, but he steals the fucking show, dude.
Yeah, he does.
Steals the fucking show. Like, he was phenomenal in this movie. Oozing all over the fucking screen, dude. Yeah. Like, with just charisma, charm, just fucking piece of shit eating grin. Yep. Like, everything about him.
Smug. Just
smug. But it fucking works so well where you're like almost kind of rooting for him because he's just kind of likable. Like, he does it in such a way where it's just like,
you know,
God,
he would have, you know, I would have felt that way if he didn't say, I'm not going to give you your daughter back. At that point, I was like, you're not very likable.
No. But you kind of get it. You know, there's Thanos who's like, was trying to save humanity.
Hey, man, he still did nothing wrong.
You know, there's like Thanos, right? Who you're like, you know what? I don't agree with the methods, but I understand. Yeah. This is the same thing. You know, I'm not going to give you your daughter back. I don't agree with the methods, but I kind of understand. No, I'm just kidding. But like, terrible human being. Yeah, like, terrible. But fuck, dude. He had me. He had me in the first round.
Oh, no, he didn't at all. Because once you say, oh, he's a con man, if that's his defining trait, I'm like, oh, this guy's
No.
a piece of shit.
I'm not saying like I legitimately believe, like I knew he was a bad guy. I'm just saying like I was on his side damn near. Like I was just like, you know what?
I will say this. Way to spin the fucking tablet of life into the tablet of riches. It was like, you fucking cheeky bastard.
Cheeky bastard.
Fucking asshole. I think the weaker part of the movie is Chris Pine's relationship with his daughter, because for her to just believe that, I was like, man, he must have been like really fucking absent in her life, or there was just like no fucking bond between them for that shit to just be like, yeah, that makes sense to me.
I agree with you that that's probably the weakest relationship. Like, just because like up until right before they go to steal the tablet, like it's alluded to that she's a part of the crew.
Yeah.
And she deals with them, right? So like
Yeah.
for me, it's like it seems like they have a really good rapport.
Yeah. You would think
that their relationship is pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, like yeah, she's a little pissed that like she doesn't get to go along for this mission, but like for him to tell her, hey, you just can't come along on this one mission. It fails horribly, and then she just believes everything that fucking Mickey Blue Eyes says. Really, like you've done all this work with your dad already. You've grown up with him, and he's trained you to be this thief. You're gonna believe this guy?
Not even to not believe her dad, but to not believe Holga, who she sees as a mother
figure.
Yeah. Who
1000%.
Who you see in that towards the end, how strong the relationship is and how she was there with literally every step she's ever taken.
Yeah, to not believe family? Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing here, dude?
She's clearly not familiar with Michelle Rodriguez's work.
Yeah,
clearly
not.
Clearly.
Family.
Come
bro.
on, man. Clearly unfamiliar with Fast and Furious.
Can we talk about an underrated, uncredited character?
I think I know who you're talking about. I think I know who you're talking about.
The man himself, Bradley Cooper, makes an appearance in this movie.
That scene, it's funny because it's like you see him and you go, is that Bradley Cooper? Kind of looks like Bradley Cooper. And it really takes you a minute to be like, that is Bradley Cooper.
That's fucking Bradley Cooper. Yeah, no, I didn't realize it was Bradley Cooper until like well after the movie. I was like, oh my God.
You know what's funny? I think it's because he's so sincere and sweet.
He's like so like cute and sweet. And like that's just not how I'm used to seeing Bradley Cooper.
I'm just so used to seeing him just be like a fucking like bro, like douchebag man. You know
or
what
like
I mean?
the American Sniper. Like, what? This is what Joe Brandon has done to Bradley Cooper. This is the America that Joe Brandon wants.
It makes you a small, soft man.
Yeah. Yeah, this is what happens to men in Joe Brandon's America.
No, but like it honestly was like sweet.
Yeah.
That whole scene.
Dude, he was just like, it's like the whole time you're watching this, you're like, I understand why Hoga likes him.
Yeah, exactly.
I
would probably leave my barbaric tribe too. This is very nice and warm and pleasant.
Just like so nice, dude.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, she's tough, on the exterior, but like, who doesn't have like, a soft side, Like, yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
You understand. Just such a great cameo. Like, so
really
good,
is.
dude.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about Simon for a little bit, just because this personally is my favorite character in the movie. Just because I enjoyed everything that they did with him. Like from the very first scene where you actually get to know his character, where he's doing a magic show. It's
Fresh
just so fucking good. Like, it's just so good. Like every shitty magician you've ever seen, dude. It's just so fucking good.
Gave me the Prestige vibes.
Yeah. Oh man, imagine him in that movie.
Oh my God.
You know what's funny is he would be the only one that actually has like magical powers, and yet he would still
it would be the shittiest tricks.
He would still be the underdog against like Anglia or whatever their names are.
Angel and fucking Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, fucking Christian Bale and fucking Wolverine. Like he'd still be the underdog with real magic powers in that movie. But yeah, anyway, like he's just so good. Like there's comic relief characters that could really become annoying.
Yeah.
And like their comedy relief trope could be to their detriment sometimes.
Yeah.
Because there's some things where like they're funny for like the first few like jokes or whatever, but after a while it just becomes grating. There's always that risk. And I feel like with his character, he never got there. And that's great. I felt like every joke that they wrote for him made sense in the moment and it worked. It never just felt like him just trying to get something off for the sake of getting something off, which I really appreciated. On top of that, I actually feel like even though I wouldn't say that this movie's big on like any heavy moments or like emotional moments, I do think the story of him combating his like mediocrity and his like legendary bloodline, is like awesome. Like it works in this context and they don't spend so much time on it where it becomes like, okay, this is like this doesn't work. This isn't as dramatic as you're painting it out to be. There's just the right amount of drama associated with it.
He's also the only character that experiences any like real growth in this movie.
Yes, you're right. Chris Pine does a little bit. Like Chris Pine's character, you know, I guess it's more just remorseful.
Yeah, it's not
you know?
like growth.
Yeah,
really.
okay, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel you.
To your point where you were saying like the jokes didn't feel like overdone or anything like that. They didn't even like use him as like a punching bag. You know what I mean? Like he was like Chris Pine's character was constantly trying to build him up, you know? It was like, no, you got this. You can do this. We didn't see him as this guy sucks because he just sucks.
Yeah.
We saw it as this guy sucks because he doesn't really fully believe in himself yet. You know what I mean? Like you knew there was potential there rather than like, oh, he's just a trash
and
wizard.
like he sucks, but he uses humor to try to compensate for that, to try to get around it. Like it's a coping mechanism.
Exactly.
Almost.
Yeah.
And that's what makes his character work so well, is because usually a lot of times like the comic relief characters are just shitty. They think they're the shit. And they think they're the funniest thing in the world. And that's why they feel like they could just crack jokes all the time and do all these one-liners. He does it because he's just trying to cope with his feeling of inadequacy. And it works so well in this movie, in my opinion.
And he's also dealing with the failure of him not being able to stop the time spell at the very beginning of the movie, which sets all of this shit in motion. So, you know, he's also, there's like a trauma there and there's like a fucking block that he needs to get over. You know what I mean? So you feel for him. So yeah, no, he was honestly like, one of the best characters for sure. Lastly,
you know, let's talk about Doric a little bit. Well, I guess we haven't talked about Chris Pine's character yet either, really, but like just to really reflect on Doric real quick. Like I think Doric, out of all the characters, I think we have the least amount of like time / getting to know her and really getting to see the depth of her character. For what there is, like she is a very interesting character, and I think they really implemented her well. Like I said, she has one of the best scenes in the movie where
she has a couple actually. So that scene where she's running away, she was huge in the reverse heist scene. And then her fucking beat down.
Dude, the owl bear.
Yeah, the owl bear, which was so fucking like Avengers coded, the way she just fucking wailed on him, dude. They one up Hulk and Loki with that one. And it was hilarious because like she beats the shit out of her, then throws her into the building. The building then collapses on her. It's just so fucking funny, just so extra, dude.
Like, it's like SpongeBob levels of like escalation. You know, it's like when Squidward bikes off a cliff and then he just explodes. You know, it's like that level of just like escalation is great, dude. So there's also like a romance between her and Simon, right? But like this movie does things a little bit differently that make it stand out and work a little bit better than other things that do this. You know, where a lot of times you're like, okay, forced romance, like it's unnecessary, we don't need it. Yeah, it's not really a romance, right? It's a romance, but it's really not. Like they dated in the past, they acknowledged that they dated and that she didn't want to continue because he was just not confident in himself, which, that's like a lot of girls experience with a lot of guys, where tip and trick for all you guys out there, like the whole self-pity thing does not work. Don't ever try it.
Here's some dating advice. Don't pity yourself. Pity the fool.
Yeah. Pity the fool.
Pity the fool, not yourself.
Dude. Yeah, shout out Mr. T. Happy Black History Month.
But no, this movie does platonic male-female relationships very well. Again, we go back to Edgin and Holga, right? You would think there would be like some sort of romance that blossoms between them, but no, they're just like
the furthest thing from it.
They're just like partners, dude, and like everything. Partners in life.
Homies,
bro. Ride or die.
It's just the dynamics in this movie work so fucking well, dude. Like so well. And like the relationships are believable. They're relationships that you like grow to love. Like you almost feel like through watching the movie that you're a part of this group too, you know? So Elgin's character, again, don't know if we're pronouncing it wrong.
Edgin, whatever.
Edgin, sorry. I threw an L in there.
The Bard.
The Bard.
The Bard. With the indestructible fucking mandolin thing.
Yeah.
That thing would not break.
Again, this is a character that's risky, especially in these times where like people are kind of tired of like the Chris Pratt-esque, like charming,
I'm gonna say it 100%, like goof, right now, right here. Character. Chris Pine has way more riz than Chris Pratt.
I agree.
Way more.
I agree. like you see it, right? Like Chris Pratt's almost like overstayed his welcome. It's just like people were into it in the beginning with the very first Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like, oh, okay, like this is like a new kind of hero, but now it's like the standard, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, Chris Pratt's kind of a part of the problem. It shouldn't work because Chris Pine's character honestly isn't that different. Like he could be played by Chris Pratt essentially. I don't know, just something about how they wrote him and how Chris Pine executes. It works. And it's like, yeah, I'm rooting for this guy. Like he's not the greatest of characters and like they don't develop his backstory all that well with like his family and his daughter. But like other than that, like he's fairly likable. And it's never to the point where he's like too likable where you're like, you feel like the movie studio is trying to pull one over you. He feels natural, you know, he feels like he has his quirks, but he feels like he has his human parts, you know, like you said, you alluded this earlier with Simon. He's really just trying to rally the crew and like he wants the best for everyone, but he wants the best for everyone in a way because he knows that wanting the best for everyone is going to serve him. Yeah. He's still selfish, but it's like a very likable kind of selfish. Yeah. He, you know, encourages Holga, who is his partner. So he does care about Holga, but like encouraging her and just being supportive of her also benefits him because she will be at her best in the battlefield. Encouraging Simon will make sure that he's at his best and his plans that involve magic fall through, you know, or go through. They did it in such a way where like, yes, he's selfish. Yes, he's the Han Solo type of like just improvise a plan on the spot, but it's in a way that is very likable, but also very like the character. It's a great foil to Forge who uses people to get what he wants and will step on them. Chris Pine's character will uplift, and he wants you guys to get the win together. He wants everyone to get theirs. Whereas fucking bastard Hugh Grant's character just wants to win himself. You know what I mean? Fucking bastard. Dastardly bastard. There are some great jokes that they do with him, man. Like there are some great humor moments that work with him. The whole bit with him drinking the tea and it's like super hot. I thought it was so fucking so that he has her use a fucking spell or whatever. Cast magic. She sticks her finger in and is like, did not know you were gonna do that. Like I would prefer you didn't stick your finger in. It's a really obvious line. But it still landed for me is when he gets Chris Pine's character in that trap, right? He's like, oh, I can't bear to see you die, so I'm just gonna leave the room. Yeah, like super obvious, but again, Hugh Grant funny, just his delivery nails it, dude. He nails it. Okay, like let's be honest, like this movie isn't high on the substance scale. There's not a lot of substance. Yeah. But with what's here, they do such a great job with it. Things that shouldn't work, and things that you feel like you think you know where it's gonna go, it goes in a different direction. I want to spend some time and talk about my favorite scene in the entire movie. Okay. And I hope it's yours too. The graveyard scene. The scene that got me to watch this movie to begin with. Let's get to the first body they raised from the dead, right? Yeah. And they're still trying to establish the rules of the questioning. Took me back to fucking Austin Powers and Mustafa. Yeah. When he's asking him the question. The truth serum, yeah. No, you asked, are you serious? Which is a new question in a new line of questioning. That shit was so funny. But no, the graveyard scene was incredible. Yeah, them coming back to life just like so fucking funny. So sudden, dude. So sudden. And then there's the way they just die. Just the fucking bickering back and forth. And then like people asking questions on accident because they're talking to the other person. Oh my god, dude. It's just so great. And then just the mystery of where the fuck did the I don't even remember what they're looking for. The tablet, right? Is it the tablet? They're looking for the helmet. The helmet right? That will nullify like the spells. Yeah. So like the mystery of the helmet and like just following it along. It all worked so well for me. Like this scene is just fucking hysterical. The guy who died just by getting out of bed. Yeah. Like or getting out of a bathtub, right? Like or something like he was in the bathtub. Yeah. He slips on like the bar of soap. Something like that. The guy who's like beheaded immediately. It's so fucking
You know,
good,
I
dude.
was thinking about something. You know how so Simon just had that little like ring thing, right? That could just do that spell. What if, spoiler, again, if you're watching this, you've already seen the movie. At the end, when Holga's dead, if he didn't want to use the tablet, like couldn't he just use that ring and then just not ask her questions?
Nobody would ever have to ask her a
Just don't
question,
ask
dude.
her a question.
So, okay, so real quick, there was a YouTube video that I was watching because I didn't have time to rewatch the movie again before this.
Okay.
So I'd already seen it twice. I just wanted a refresher, so I watched like a movie that like summarized it. And he brought up a really funny point of like if there was to be like a potential sequel, them recruiting the one that they left alive because they didn't ask him the final question, and then they just don't ask him the final question. Like he ends up becoming a member of the group or the party.
That would be funny.
Fucking hysterical, dude.
Okay, so that's definitely one of my favorites. My
Mhm.
second favorite, obvious choice, the
Mhm.
fucking illusion failing. Dude,
Oh my god.
I did not see it coming, to be honest.
So well done.
I did not see that
well
coming
done.
at all.
Yeah, me neither. And then the minute his like shit starts freaking out and his
Yeah.
face, dude, oh my god. I was like, yo, what the fuck is going on?
That shit
Yeah,
was
dude.
so good.
Yeah, amazing, dude. They nailed like again, like this movie does so many things well to
Yeah.
subvert your expectations. For a movie that's super predictable, there's so many things about it that are not.
This
you know?
movie did not have to be this clever.
Yeah.
They did not have to go that hard, but they
Yeah.
did it.
Viagra hard. Like they went there, dude.
Like
Like,
cut diamonds hard, bro.
oh my god, dude. Yeah, no, like it's just a really clever, fun movie. And like, even if you're one of those people who's like, oh, I saw all of this coming, it's like you have to at least appreciate the creativity,
Yeah,
right?
even
Because,
if you
like,
did see it coming, the way they delivered it to you, phenomenal.
so great, dude. Just so amazing. Like another one of my favorite scenes is the whole dungeon thing with the Chungus dragon. Like just everything about that was just handled so well. The fight scene choreography with that,
Yeah.
to them running away from the dragon, utilizing the hither tither, whatever it's called. It's just so great. We haven't talked about this scene yet, but the ending of the movie, or the climax of the movie rather, in the maze. Really cool Easter egg in this movie, which I don't know if you watched any videos that like covered it or anything. But
You're talking about like
So-
the group?
yes, the other group.
Yeah.
So there's another group that they see, you kind of see in the background or in random scenes where they're also a group competing in this like competition that our main group is competing in. And they're dressed very specifically.
Mhm.
And this is like a really fucking cool reference. If you're one of those people that knows, then
Yeah.
you were like, this is probably one of the best Easter eggs in the entire movie. So I guess in the fucking, I don't even know.
I think it's like the
19
80s or something.
80s, like 1980s, there was a Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. And this group of characters in the movie are dressed exactly as the main characters from the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon in the 1980s. Super awesome reference. I'm the kind of person that really nerds out and just freaks out over like Easter eggs and shit, whether it's in movies or video games. Like I live for that type of shit. This was not one that I caught in the moment, but after learning about it, I was just like, damn, that's super fucking cool. In addition to that, right, just this scene in general, so
That's a fun
crazy.
scene.
That this is a fun scene, and this fucking, is it like a panther?
The
I
Panther
forgot.
thing was badass. That fucking
That panther
projects.
thing that can like project illusions. Oh my god, this thing is horrifying.
Yeah.
Like holy shit, this thing is crazy.
The one that I really appreciated, it's because it's in every fucking RPG ever that has
Mm-hmm.
treasure chests, is the fucking decoy treasure
The
chest.
mimic.
Yeah,
The
the
mimic.
mimic, dude. I was
Yeah,
like,
dude.
fuck yeah, man. Because
Yeah, as
that's
a
in every
Dark Soul-
fucking game, dude.
Yeah,
and
as
it's
a
so
Dark
good.
Souls player, that shit fucking gave me fucking trauma, dude. Like I was like, I fucking hate this. The fucking slime, right?
Dude, that
dissolves
was
you.
fucking cool. That scene was sick.
What a great scene. Like, so there's a scene where the characters like need to like get underground to escape the maze. And they go into the slime voluntarily just for Dork to, you know, transform into like a small creature and then get out through her fingertips.
Yeah.
Great setup, by the way. Awesome setup
Yeah.
for that. And then pull them out. But
What
like,
a clever
man,
way to use her power to utilize something fucking that could kill them, right? To have an element of danger in
Yeah.
an escape.
And like, talk
Just
about
everything
like
about it, dude.
just such great execution, and like, you know, like she had to be perfect, right? Where she goes into this to the slime and she has to position herself to where her finger is literally just at the very edge of that slime. Otherwise, she risks dying, you know?
Yeah.
If she transforms as like I forgot what she transformed as, like
A
was
snake,
like
I think.
yeah, dude. Yeah, so well set up. So awesome, dude. Such a great scene. Is there anything else you want to glaze this movie over? Are we done glazing?
I think we covered it, man. It's a fucking really well done movie. Highly recommend watching it. If it flew under your radar, check it out, give it a shot. And then after that, watch a YouTube video going over all the Easter eggs and references, because it just makes the movie that much better.
Yeah, the directors really, this was sincerely like a labor of love. Like they understood the material, they had a respect for it, and they did it well. And even people like us who aren't the biggest like D&D nerds, we can appreciate that. You know, like that's fucking awesome, dude. Okay, so if we're done glazing this movie, let's talk about any issues we might have had with it, or things that we think maybe held the movie back or kind of brought it down in our eyes, you know?
My main thing was just the relationship with the daughter, and the fact that her angst and anger towards her father just wasn't believable to me. Honestly, that's my only complaint so far.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if you have more, but
I guess overall,
okay, one more. Sofina's like whole motivation thing, I'm assuming, because it's not really super well explained, which I guess is another knock. But the main like evil dude that she's talking to in the mirror one time in the movie, like nothing really comes of that. And I'm
so
just like,
that
okay.
that actually ties into my complaint. Okay. Right? So I really genuinely feel like, okay, so like story isn't this movie's strong point. It doesn't need to be, but like they do like kind of lean heavily into it in certain parts of the movie. And Sofina, right? That's her name?
Yeah.
The main villain?
The Red Wizard, yeah.
The whole thing with the Red Wizards and everything. So, okay, so the whole thing that starts this whole thing is that Chris Pine's character steals from the Red Wizards, and that results in his wife's death.
Red Wizards mark their treasure, I guess.
Exactly.
Something like that, yeah.
Which, good concept, awesome, right? I just wish we had gotten a little bit more explanation of the Red Wizards, maybe what their motivation is, who is the main wizard that Sofina's like talking to, right? Like a little bit more. Like they do explain who it is.
Yeah.
Just like it just doesn't really. It just kind of was.
Sorry, who I guess to the uninitiated is an actual like main character villain thing in Dungeons and Dragons.
Right. Yeah. So like there has to be a little bit more lore they could pull from, right? Like so like I just think kind of covering a little bit more of that would have been great. I don't know where you would fit it. So here's the thing. It's not like a super big criticism because I'm not really even sure where you would fit it, right? This movie I feel like is like the perfect length. It doesn't overstay its welcome. So I don't necessarily want to add on to its length. So you might need to sacrifice something. I just don't know what you would sacrifice in order to get this. But for me, even though I don't necessarily think this movie needs heavy story beats or like emotional attachment to what's happening, it would have been the cherry on top of everything. Like, great action, great comedy, great story on top of it. Oh my God, this is like a 5 out of 5. But because it is a very conventional good versus evil type story that doesn't, do anything that like is like very like captivating. It doesn't need it. The movie succeeds really well without it. But if it did have it, this probably could have been a 5 out of 5 for me. I might be spoiling my score for it, but like not to compare it to this per se, but like something that does this kind of thing better is something like the Avengers, the first one, Infinity War. If you saw it for the first time, that ending to that movie shocked you. You're not used to something like that happening where the heroes don't win and the movie ends on like a bummer. So like, I'm not saying this movie had to do that, but I'm just saying that you can have like these kinds of simplistic summer blockbuster type stories that are somewhat predictable, but still present something that like adds depth and emotion to the story that you're telling. I don't really care that Sofina is doing this and it's going to kill all these people because she's just supposed to do that, like there's no drive there.
When you see her towards the end, right? And she's finally like doing like the spell with like the red cloud or whatever. I was like, okay, cool. Like her whole point of doing this was to get an army for that main dude that she's like trying to like serve or whatever, right? Like she's
Yeah.
gonna turn all these people into like the undead or whatever, and they're gonna be like their army, right? But then like they stop it. There's no like mention of that guy ever again. You don't see a scene of them going like, fine, I'll do it myself. You know what I mean? Like you don't get you don't get any of that. So you're just kind of like, oh.
Instead, the end credit scene goes to the guy in the graveyard that they left alive.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Like the motivations would have been nice to see. More, a little bit more to the villain would have been great. But like you said, this movie didn't really need it. I'm just reiterating what you said basically, but no, yeah, I agree. It does lose some points there.
I will say this, going back to like praising this movie, the way they handled the ending is just really well done. Like the fight scene with Safina is just so
sick.
awesome. The way they execute the plan against Mickey Blue Eyes is just fucking great too. Sorry, I keep forgetting his name, so I'm just gonna keep calling him that. Bastard. Like them using the portal thing on the blimp to then transfer all of the gold. I was just like, it's so good. So well done, dude. To transfer the wealth to the people, like, and just come full circle from like him being greedy at the beginning of the movie and that resulting in his wife's death to now, giving it back to the people,
and saving those people.
Saving those people, and not only giving back to those people, but also using it as a means to get them out of the vicinity of the threat. It's things that you kind of expect to happen, but it does it in a way that's like, oh, that was a really clever way to execute that.
Yeah,
that's maybe not the most obvious thing that I would have thought of to get us to this point, but yeah, you did it, and it's like it's great, like it works. Yeah, such a great movie, highly rewatchable.
That's what I wanted to ask you. So you said you saw it twice already. I intended to rewatch it today, but I didn't have time. Is it something that holds up with multiple watches in your opinion?
Oh yeah, no, because it's just fun. Because you don't have to overthink things.
Yeah, because after I finished it, I was like, wow, you know what? This is a movie that I could just throw on repeatedly and enjoy. You know what I mean? Like this is a movie that doesn't take a lot of brain power. It's nice to just have on and watch if you just need something to pass the time or just be entertained. Like I think this movie is amazing for that.
It was this movie was made for like TV in the sense that like not in the sense that like it's like it doesn't deserve a theatrical run. It was just once it's done and it's accumulated as much of like its viewing as possible, through theater and people that buy the Blu-rays or whatever. Like you put this movie on TV, people are going to stop flipping channels.
This is a movie you put on like fucking FX or you put on like TBS and you just have it run. Fucking
people are going to flip channels.
Freeform or whatever. Yeah.
They're going to see this movie's on and they're going to stop and watch it.
If I'm on vacation
it's entertaining.
And I'm in my hotel and I'm looking for something to watch, if this movie is on TV, that's what I'm putting it on.
This is what I'm going to pick.
Yeah.
Like, this was made for TV in that sense. It's perfect in that sense. It's not grading, right? Like I think that's another big thing is like, even if a movie's all those things, it still has the possibility of being grading.
Yeah.
So like, for example, a movie that funny enough, my boss always complains about because whenever he goes to his parents, they're watching it for some reason because it always just happens to be on TV and they always just leave it on is Aquaman.
Is it on TV that much? Aquaman?
I guess so. So. So much that it's like a bit. Right, with my boss.
Damn.
Where he always says, like, whenever I come over, Aquaman's on. They're always watching Aquaman.
That's interesting because in my recent travels and staying at hotels, I don't think I've seen that movie on TV. So that's fascinating to me.
I couldn't tell you, but like
this movie is so much better.
This movie is not that right.
So much better than Aquaman.
Aquaman is not something like if it's on TV, I might watch it once or twice. But it's not something I'm like, oh, I want to like, I'm watching this. Like, no, this movie can get annoying, dude. Like, hell no.
Before we move on to our ratings, which I'm assuming is kind of coming up soon.
Yeah. I do have a question for us.
Okay, I do want to quickly talk about two scenes. One that we've already briefly mentioned, but the after credit scene, or not the mid credit scene, I think. when you see that bastard Hugh Grant try to pull the same spiel and shtick that Chris Pine's character at the beginning of the movie did to escape the prison. And so that
They
whole
blocked
scene,
up the window.
they block up the window, and poor Jonathan just gets fucking speared into a brick wall.
Oh no,
Justice for Jonathan, man. If there's a sequel, he needs to get his. You know what I mean? He needs to get his moment. He needs to fucking beat some ass.
I could see Jonathan having like an Admiral Akbar like cult following. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, I'm there, dude. I am captain of that ship.
Him, bro. Jonathan is him, man.
He is him, dog. And then another scene. It was at the end, and it's when Holga is talking to someone. I forget who. I don't know if it was like someone from like the kingdom who was like granting her people like safety or whatever when they were like mending the relationship. But it's another little person, and she does that little lip bite.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, damn.
Oh my god.
Girl's got a type.
So good, dude. Again, it's just so well done, dude. Like it doesn't hammer home the fact that she's like into like the little people or whatever, like dwarves. Are they dwarves? I don't remember.
I really don't know what that species is called.
It doesn't like hammer that home at all. They do just enough to let you know, like, yeah, like she has a past.
Yeah.
This is her type.
And I love that scene because it solidifies the fact that her and Chris Pine are strictly platonic. They are strictly friends. I guess life partners in a way is a better term. Like they're not together, but they're doing
domestic
life
partnership.
Together.
They're in a domestic partnership.
They're in a domestic partnership.
Raising a child together. But you know, not fucking.
It just hammers that home. You know what I mean? It's like, that's fucking cool.
God,
and it's also a happy ending for her because going back to that Bradley Cooper scene and how honestly sweet it was and how he wants her to find happiness. Well. Yeah. The fact that you kind of get an idea like, okay, she's on the mend. That little like 10-second scene did so much for me. Like that was awesome.
Mm-hmm. And like you see like his new lover come in who's basically just Holga again, right? But just like a different version of her.
I think even bigger than her.
Yeah.
And the fact that she was like, nice to meet you. Like, seriously, everyone in this fucking movie is so supportive.
It's like they know how they should be, right?
Yeah.
You know, and they act accordingly, you know, like they don't act as like a dick just because the movie dictates that they should act like a dick. Like everything in movie logic says that like you should just be an asshole to this person because it's entertaining. And it's like, that's what makes for an entertaining scene. Like, no, you could still have an entertaining scene, but still have everyone be cordial with each other. It just has to make sense.
Yeah.
You know? So the question I had is, what would be your Dungeons and Dragons character and what class would they be?
Are we talking like species when you say what would be your Dungeons and Dragons character? Like,
let your mind go wherever you want. Don't let me stifle your creativity.
What are the rules? Like, because isn't there like set things, parameters that I need to fall into?
I mean, I just feel like you should just have creativity in what you could be, you know, like just
okay.
And the DM will have to work with whatever that is, you know.
Okay. Damn. Do you have yours in mind?
I mean, really, it's just my ideal version of me. You know, it's a fucking wizard that could change into any race. You know, I like to think that I can navigate any type of political line or any type of privilege. You know, just like I'm the same as I'm the same as Dork, but instead of animals, I just changed the ethnicities. You know, that's kind of what I want to be. You know, like if there's a situation where I need to be white, probably most situations I'm gonna be white. Situation where maybe I need to be fucking Asian. Whatever that situation is, I'm gonna be Asian, you know, like, you know, just, you know, it's Black History Month. Maybe I'll turn black. Seriously though, like in the context of Dungeons and Dragons, it still makes sense. Like, so like even because races and I don't know how races work in Dungeons and Dragons. I would imagine it's maybe similar to like Elder Scrolls or something, right? So like if you could change to like an Argonian when you need to, is that a different species or is that a different race? I don't fucking know. If I could be a Khajiit, you know, I don't know. Are there Khajiits in Dungeons and Dragons lore like there is in Elder Scrolls? I don't fucking know.
Fuck. Damn. I really don't know what I would be. So you would go wizard? I feel like I have to choose a different class.
I mean, you were in a band. Would you be a bard?
Yeah. Okay. So I would be
alchemy trio.
I would be a wizard bard.
Okay. Yeah. Wizard bard.
A
Oh, nice,
wizard
nice.
bard who
Nice.
is half elf. Just half. One ear is pointy
Dude.
only.
Dude, save some women for the rest of us,
I
am I
know.
right? That's a dangerous combination.
Yeah, I know.
Can elves get STDs, you think?
Only dark elves. Only the elves that practice the dark arts.
Yeah.
That's anal.
Yeah. Oh, it's like the reverse, right? So like if you're an elf,
Yeah.
it's anal sex that can give you an STD, not vaginal.
You can get STDs from anal sex, dude.
I don't know.
Bro, AIDS?
I've never done it. Oh, whatever. You know what's funny about AIDS? Is that the word aid is like to help, you know, is to make you better, right? But then like they named the disease after that literally fucking breaks you down.
Yeah.
You know, like crazy stuff. I would never have done that if I was them personally. Just saying. But
anyways.
Yeah.
I'd be a bard who is half elf, who is incapable of obtaining STDs. So,
what's your band name? Magic and the Gatherings.
Yeah, that's it. Magic and the Gatherings. Anyways,
that's good.
That's
great.
Obviously, the natural ability or whatever would be charisma. Obviously. So that would be my fucking character, a half elf bard who is incapable of getting STDs, maxed out Riz, and I will
honestly
fuck myself out of every situation.
You're like basically a fucking succubus. Man, I'm sure every fucking musician wishes they had that power, to be honest.
I think they often think they do, and it turns out they don't.
Well, you know, easy, you learn that lesson.
And then you go on to play Live Aid before you die.
Sure. R.I.P. man. All right. Do we want to get into scores?
Yeah.
God, this has been the most problematic we've been.
Jeez.
So just yet.
It might be, yeah.
Crazy. Okay, so me personally, like this movie has its shortcomings, but like goddamn, like it doesn't miss when it hits.
Before
like,
you give your rating, let me roll the dice, okay? Let's roll the dice.
Yeah. Sorry.
So
according to the dice, I scored a 9. We don't. That's not on our scale though.
It's not. It exceeds our scale.
But it actually works out because my score for this movie is a 4 out of 5. Like I love this movie. I enjoy the fuck out of it. I think that even though what it lacks in substance and compelling story, it makes up for in just witty writing, clever setups, awesome characters, you know, that are just fun to watch. Like this movie is just fun. Like the fun factor for this movie, I think, takes it over the edge to where I don't necessarily need to be compelled. This doesn't need to reinvent the wheel, like I said earlier, or like it doesn't need to do any of that. Like it's just fun. It's just so much fun that I could see myself watching this movie repeatedly, you know, forever going forward, you know?
For me, this movie gets shaking the dice. A natty 4, baby.
E4, good reference.
It's a natty 4, baby. It's not the perfect movie, but it's a damn good movie.
Dude,
or one that I don't
so good.
Foresee myself like getting sick of the more I watch it. Like I told you, I wanted to rewatch it, and as soon as it ended, I knew I was gonna rewatch it at some point. This is just a fun movie, man. Like
it's fun, and like it's one of those movies where the minute it ends, you wish you had more time with it. Like
Yeah.
you wish you had more time with these characters.
Let me
Yeah.
ask you something then.
Mhm.
Because we both clearly love this movie, a sequel. One,
Yes.
do you want it? Two, do you think it could be as good? And if it's not as good, is that a disappointment? And should they stop after that?
So yes and yes. Like, yes, I want a sequel. Like, I think this movie deserves it. From what I've seen, it did really fucking well.
Mhm.
Like, I think it will get a sequel eventually. And two, as long as they have the same people directing it, like, yeah, I do think it could be just as good because there's a lot that they can pull from, and there's so much more they can do in this world. It's different from like something that's like pulling from like a book series or whatever, because there's only so much you can pull from. This is not limited by that. Now, granted, they can't obviously use the same jokes they've used in this movie, and this movie does a lot of great jokes with the source material already. So to me, that would be the biggest challenge, is coming up with jokes just as funny, if not funnier, than the jokes that they made in this movie.
Yeah.
That would be a tall task.
Would you want the same cast?
Oh yeah, 1000%. There's a lot more potential too with the addition of the daughter being back in the group now, like doing something with her. Like I said, like there's a lot of opportunity to bring back characters, and I don't necessarily think it would be unwanted, right? Like Jonathan.
Yeah. He just needs to get his, man. That's all I'm
He just
saying,
needs to
man.
get his.
He needs to
It'd be
have his
great.
moment, bro.
No, yeah, I'm excited for any possibility of sequel coming for this movie. What about you?
I definitely want to see more. Do I think it could be as good? I think that's a tall task. I would hope it would be just as good. And yeah, I would love to see the same cast. So mostly agree with you. I'm just skeptical because, again, I think they just nailed so much with this first one that I think it's hard to, have lightning hit twice. So they say.
If they were to add somebody to the cast, right? Is there an actor or actress that you could think of that you think would do well in this type of movie or with this group of people?
Do you have anyone in mind?
Someone that I think could have a lot of fun in this type of movie with this cast of people, Robert Pattinson. I think could be kind of interesting to play, like kind of like not necessarily in the same vein as Bradley Cooper, because he was really more of a cameo, but like I think like I've seen Robert Pattinson in enough things where I feel like he has like a natural comedic element to him that I think a lot of people don't appreciate as much about him. But like him and Daniel Radcliffe are like two people that I could see playing like really weird offshoot characters in this series that would be hilarious.
Daniel
kinda
Radcliffe already kind of has done something like this along the same veins is that show that I referenced in our Swiss Army Man podcast, Miracle Workers.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see him in something like this and playing well with the other cast.
And then another one who's already been in something very much like this is Elijah Wood.
Yeah. Damn, that's a name I have not heard in a long time.
Those are like my three like darlings in Hollywood, right? Like Robert Pat, Elijah Wood, and Daniel Radcliffe. Like they always take like the weirdest fucking movie roles, and they fucking kill it. Like for the most part. And I'm not gonna say every time, but they fucking kill it.
Okay, I think I have a couple. Zendaya. I think she has that dryness to her where she could play like a really funny like character, like a serious funny character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah.
Might be a bit of a bandwagon pick, but I'm curious to see if Barry Keoghan can do something like super comedic.
Barry Keoghan is definitely another pick that I definitely could see for sure working in this type of movie. Yeah, that would be really fun. All right, dude.
That officially wraps up this episode of the Nosebleed AV Club. You can find us on Instagram at Nosebleed AV Club. You can find us on TikTok, same handle. You can find us online where we host all of our movie rankings at nosebleedav.club. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, consider hitting that like button. Give us 5 stars, leave us a review. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment, leave us a like, and do all the things. We are trying to roll a level 20 intelligence. So please do all those things for us.
Never gonna happen.
We are trying to obtain the tablet of riches. So please do all those things so we can achieve that. and live our best life, unlike Forge, that bastard. With that, we bid you adieu.
Fare thee well.
Fare thee well. Fare thee well to everyone but Hugh Grant.
Bastard.
Bastard.